We now live in an age where almost all our favorite pop culture content is available on demand. Disney Plus is available all over the world, along with HBO Max, Netflix, as well as other streaming services with more regional appeal. And yet, despite having tremendous ease of access, the content being served to us is well below our expectations. In this video, I'm going to be focusing on the most successful setups in superhero movie making, namely Marvel Cinematic Universe. So if you are one of those fans who are in love with whatever appalling content Marvel Studios is dishing out, this video is not for you. So the first question is, where did it go off track, completely off track? It all started with Captain Marvel movie starring Brie Larson, when the purposeful storytelling took a back seat and in came identity politics. In this case, it was to appease the feminist audiences that were out there. Don't get me wrong, Marvel Studios made a lot of bad decisions before Captain Marvel movie ever came out, but that has more to do with lightening the mood while telling a story by incorporating unnecessary comedic puns. A practice that began with Ant-Man, Thor Ragnarok, and even plagued a movie that could have been even better than Infinity War. Yes, I'm talking about Avengers Endgame. But in case of Captain Marvel, the practice was not only established, but it was a sign of more unbearable virtue signaling to come. As if it wasn't enough to see Mar-Vell being played by a woman, the original Captain Marvel, if you will. Who knew that we would end up with great characters from our beloved Marvel universe being destroyed for the sake of woke audiences? Till now, the best series that have been released by Marvel Studios happen to be WandaVision, Moon Knight, and to some extent, Loki. In case of Loki, I personally think that this series could have been wrapped in 3 episodes rather than 6. It was dragged too much. It seems there is a consistent pattern for every other series other than the ones that I've mentioned. It starts with a promising note. Everything seems okay till episode 3, but after that, everything starts going downhill. Here, I want to point out the exception being the Hawkeye series. Hawkeye series was going really well until in later episodes, it simply dwindled, ruining the showdown with Kingpin for the sake of Kate Bishop and Yelena's female buddy comedy relationship, or the content that was there. The movies haven't been a sigh of relief either. Shang-Chi and the Legend of Ten Rings, Thor Love and Thunder seem to have been made for children as young as 7-year-olds. No surprise, considering what Taika Waititi had said about his approach when it came to Thor Love and Thunder. It was really unexpected, or expected, but abysmal to say the least. Remember, the legend Bruce Lee and David Carradine's Kung Fu series inspired Marvel to create Shang-Chi, Iron Fist. Whereas the movie Shang-Chi and the Legend of Ten Rings is a mix of a Bollywood masala script along with Kung Fu Panda, sprinkled with the all-irritating presence of Aquafina. Whatever the nature of the content, Marvel Studios and Disney want us to cheer for them for trying to shove their woke identity politics based content down our throats. We have to cheer for Miss Marvel because she is a Pakistani Muslim girl, not because of what drives her to do the right thing and face dangers head on. We have to cheer for She-Hulk because she is giving us a catfight with Titana and is nagging about how it's difficult for females in the world when in fact crime, poverty, injustice, discrimination are not gender centric. Instead of using her to breathe new life into the segment of Hulks within the cinematic universe, she has been anything but a Marvel hero. The Jen Walters I grew up reading about is a torn person between upholding the law on one side and being a vigilante on the other. The guilt of being a hypocrite, if you will, without having ill intentions. It's a very complex situation to be in, and this is the hallmark of the She-Hulk character that we have read throughout the 80s, the 90s, and up until present day. I guess one of the worst adaptations, or one of the worst content that was produced, has been The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It could have been the best series had it been a reflection of the huge body of work that was produced by legends such as Steve Englehart, such as Mark Grunwald. It just became towards the latter part of the series a talking point, or just a broadcast of a Black Lives Matter protest out in somewhere in the United States. It pains me to see that great acting talents are being wasted. Marvel Cinematic Universe content seems like a reflection of CNBC and MSNBC, when in fact it should reflect the wonderful work that has been done in the last 8 decades. There are so many stories that are popular, that are underrated, stories that simply went under the radar. And all of these stories remain relevant for even current audiences. For those who say that no, movies need to be entertaining and they need to be funny, I think it's better to give an example about what Christopher Nolan did with Batman. That series remains a masterpiece. It's not just about Batman, it's also about Star Wars. The earlier movies that were produced by George Lucas, these movies remain not only classics, but also younger audiences, when they start watching these, they become mesmerized. Superman 1, Superman 2 is another example. The first decade of MCU saw the watering down of famous storylines that were dark, such as Avengers Age of Ultron, what they did with the Mandarin in Iron Man 3. Then you have the relationships between heroes and villains. Now, Thor Ragnarok, the relationship between Thor and Hulk, it's a cringe even to remember that. Because superheroes' relationships used to reflect real life situations. We all go through problems. Humankind has always suffered from, not just from war and famine, even though we are living in times that are much better than what life used to be pre-industrial revolution, but still human beings, all of us, have different issues to deal with. But unfortunately, the first decade, not taking the lead from the culture, the tradition, the approach which Marvel Comics has had established, which led to the Marvel Age of Comics, the second decade has been nothing but about virtue signaling. Oh, we are up for feminism, we are up for this, we are up for Muslims, and we are up for... I am a Muslim myself, I am a content creator, I am a Muslim, I'm based in Saudi Arabia. But I admire and love these superheroes for the values that they bring in. We are fans of MCU because we got introduced to these superheroes thanks to Marvel Comics, not the other way around. Of course, the younger generations who grew up watching movies are witnessing the movies first, and then they are discovering comics. In both situations, the source material cannot be ignored, neither by the producers, nor by the studios, nor by the directors, and even by the fans themselves, old or young, whichever might be the case. So when we see our favorite heroes being used for a specific agenda instead of what they have been all about, then the process of alienation will lead to unintended consequences. Not only on the box office, but also on streaming subscriptions. Already it has started. China, India, Saudi Arabia, and most of the GCC countries haven't had a Marvel movie in cinemas since Spider-Man No Way Home. And the fate that befell Netflix may come to haunt Disney Plus within the next few years. I, for one, am not having high hopes from the reboot of Daredevil and the upcoming Deadpool 3, in which we will see the return of Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, because of what I have been able to learn from the people who are involved in these projects. It seems they are taking the fans for granted. The medium of comics, however, is seeing a revolution. And if I am a studio executive, I need to study that. Of course, the world of comics has different dynamics compared to the cinematic universes or the movie studios. But what has happened is that with all the wokeness that has plagued DC Comics and to some extent Marvel Comics, a new publishing house has emerged, and its title, ISOM #1, has received $3 million worth of pre-orders. That means that if we assume that each comic is being sold for $5 an issue, that's like 600,000 copies sold already before the actual issue hits the shelf. Meanwhile, Superman, son of Kal-El, and what they have done with Jonathan Kent, is struggling to sell 70,000 comics a month. The publisher in this case that has revolutionized the game is Ripa versus Eric July. Eric July, for those of you who are not aware, is an African American. And like me, he felt really strongly about the heroes we grew up reading about. And he decided to do something. I am producing a content for my channel. He decides to publish a comic. And next thing you know, $3 million worth of pre-order sales. My message to Bob Iger and Kevin Feige is, end your woke crusade, focus on superheroic virtues, the virtues that have been established and communicated by the likes of Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, by the likes of Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko, David Michelini, Steve Englehart, Mark Gruenwald. Make cinematic universe a reflection of our own world, just like Marvel Comics were up until 2010. Do not look at Twitter as a benchmark of success. Still, if let's say the downfall of MCU happens, I'm not at a loss. Why? Because I have 8 decades of wonderful work of Marvel in the form of comics that I can simply buy and read about it. Let me know what you guys think, and share your comments, share this video, subscribe to my channel, and see you guys soon.